All right, we're back for part 2 of this toolbox blueprint. The next step is to create the ends of the toolbox. So I don't know if you guys can see it yet, but this is basically going to be a piece of wood coming across here. These lines here are partially going to be erased. Some of it will become a handle. Anyway, let's keep going. So in order to draw this end over here, I don't need to measure. All I need to do is line my ruler up perfectly parallel to this line that we've already drawn, hold it in place, and then pull this line all the way across. This is going to be one of the ends. It doesn't quite look like it yet because we have to establish the top of the ends. And this is basically called a chamfer. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to measure down and over 1/2 inch from the corners. So the corners are still there, they're important. We didn't want to erase them yet. So I'm going to put a tick mark at 1/2 inch. Come over here, 1/2 inch. I'm going to come down here actually, line up my ruler, bring this one down so that we can then come in and put the 1/2 inch tick mark on it. And then we need the tick marks that are going in the other direction so we can connect the two dots. So from this top line, we're going to come down 1/2 inch. From this intersecting point here, we're going to come up 1/2 inch, put a tick mark, and down 1/2 inch, put a tick mark. And then from this bottom line right here, we're going to come up 1/2 inch. I'm going to now start connecting the dots. So while my ruler is already in this position, I'm just going to move it over to do this other diagonal. Now I'll switch the ruler to the other position, get it right on my dots, make sure I'm really accurate here, move it to the other corner like this. Okay, so I now know there's going to be no wood right here, so we can get rid of this line. I can get rid of this line. So that's not actually part of a project. So we have the two ends, the sides, and the bottom. Now we need to draw the handle. The handle is the same width. We want to come down 1/8 inch from this line so they're not touching each other and there's some separation. So I'm just going to draw 2 tick marks down, come over here, put a dot, 2 tick marks down, and then I'm going to come down 3/4 inch from there. Because 3/4 will represent 1.5 inches. Okay, I also need this top line here. So this line and this line no longer need to be there. We do not want to connect these two parts as if they're from the same piece of wood or the same anything. They are separate. And this line here shouldn't touch the title box, but I'm going to leave a little bit of it. You're going to see why in just a moment. Okay, we've got all of our parts drawn if you're at this step with me. The next thing we need to do, let's label all of our parts so we can identify what we're doing. We're going to start with the right and left end. So these are the ends of the board, or the ends of the box. So we're going to call this the end. You can call it right. I'm just going to put it up here. I like this way. Right end. Left end. This is the bottom of the box. This is, let's say this is the front. And we'll call this the back. Okay. We'll call this the handle. And now we need to put some dimensions on here. Even though I do not have any numbers on this particular drawing, I can actually tell because I can come over with a ruler and say, well, if this is the scale and this is 6 inches, that means 12. But you don't want to have to use your ruler every time, so we're going to put some actual dimensions on here. There's a specific way that we typically do that in industry. Let me show you the original drawing. You'll notice that these numbers right here come down, but they don't actually connect. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys. So right now you can see that these numbers go from one particular line to another, showing you that from here to here is 2.5 inches. There's also these little arrows that come start and stop. So here it's on one side of the line, there it's on the other side of the line, and then here it's on this side of the line and then that side of the line, which tells you that this measurement, number 5, is for sure from here to here, and that's not part of the project, that's just a measurement. That's how we identify that. That way we know that it's not actually the shape or part of this piece that we're trying to cut out. So we're going to put these dimensioning lines on, making sure they don't touch and that there's a gap. Let me back you guys now out so you can see the whole thing I'm working on. And here we go. I'm going to line my ruler up with this particular bottom area. I'm going to leave an 1/8 of an inch gap between the actual edge, this line, and where my line will be. I'm just going to draw the line over. It doesn't really matter how far it goes, as long as it doesn't go off the edge of the paper. I'm just going to come and I'm going to do that for each one of these lines. Each time I'm making sure to be parallel with this other line so that everything lines up and it stays nice and neat. Alright, so then after we get all these lines drawn, I need to put a dimension line in here. I want to leave a 1/2 inch for my numbers. So I'm going to come around, let's do it this way so you can see it. And what I want to do is leave about a 1/2 of an inch. I want to make this line parallel to this line here. I'm going to eyeball about 1/4 to 3/8 away, as long as it's parallel. And I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch space, okay, in between these lines. Okay, so I have all of these spots now to put my numbers. We know this one's going to be 5 inches. This is going to be 2 1/2 inch. This is going to be 2 1/2 inch. And this handle down here is 1 1/2 inch. This little quote mark here, it means inch. Okay, so then I need to determine where these lines start and stop, and we do that using these little 1/2 of an arrow mark. So here, because we have an arrow on this side and that side, the arrow is going to go all the way through. Here we only have it on 1/2 here, so we're going to stop there. We'll start up again right there, and we'll come here. You want to keep all of those little tick marks at the same angle. Now we need to do that for the top. I'm not going to do that here at the bottom, so we can go ahead and get rid of these lines. I'm not going to use them. And I don't need to use this line here, so it can go. We'll clean up our drawing just a little bit. Okay, so I can actually use this line, but I need to delete about or erase about 1/8 of an inch from the project. So I went ahead and erased this one completely. I'm going to redraw it. Giving myself 1/8 of an inch space. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Making sure my lines stay nice and parallel and straight with everything else we've been doing. Okay, so now what I need to do is I want to come up about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch away from this project, making sure I'm parallel. If you're not sure, you should measure. And what I need to do is give myself a line with that 1/2 inch gap. I like to put my numbers roughly in the middle. So this one's going to be 12 inches. And this one over here is 7 inches. We need to put our little arrows on here. That's the arrow going down and the arrow going up. And now we need an arrow coming down. I'm going to then erase most of this middle line so we can go over the top of it and put one long line that adds these two numbers together so that if there's any confusion, it'll be easily figured out. Come down, come up, and this should be 19 inches. Okay. That's pretty much everything you're going to need except one piece of information, and that is this little cutout right here. This might be really useful while you're building to know that this is going to be 1 inch. So we know that it's 1 inch because we only did a 1/2 inch on this drawing. So I would suggest maybe somewhere on this drawing noting that this is 1 inch. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to put a mark from, how do I want to do that? Let's see. I'm going to actually take my ruler across all of those points there. We'll leave that 1/8 inch space. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say that from this point to this point is 1 inch. That way, while I'm building, I will know that that's 1 inch there, and that's going to be the same thing here. If you wanted to, you could maybe draw a little arrow or something like that that points to this line right here. I don't usually like to do that. It looks a little sloppy to me. If you're going to do that, it needs to not be a straight arrow. It needs to have a curve in it like this. That way you can automatically and very easily tell that that arrow, you zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that that arrow is obviously not part of the project, and by putting a swerve or a curve in it like that, you can tell that it's not part of the project and it's going from here to there. And again, this is not touching anything. Okay, well, you guys should have everything you need in order to finish this project. Hopefully you can get this turned in quickly and we can start building these projects. Good luck. If you got any questions, come see me. Otherwise, we'll get this going and you guys will get building down to the fun stuff.